I'm Brent Fikowski, CrossFit Games athlete. This is the first time I'm giving my full gym tour. I've recently had an upgrade with Rep Fitness equipment. I'm really excited to show you guys inside. I've been training like exclusively out of my home gym for 4 to 5 years. I've had a home gym for 6, 7 years. Let's go check it out. So my first garage gym, my wife and I were renting a place. We had some roommates. We had a single car garage. So it was about this big, and the only thing I had was a single squat rack, had like one barbell, had some machines, and that was kind of the start. So we ended up buying this place, and this was just all grass. So this was just a large backyard, grass, a lot of weeds, some dirt, and we built this home gym. We basically looked at the zoning guidelines and asked ourselves, what's the largest garage that we can legally build on this plot of land, and that was how we landed on this size. So I think it's 25 by 34 feet. The ceiling here, this is 12 foot. And then there's a center kind of loft there that goes up to 14 feet. So that pole is about 13 and a half feet. So those 5 pieces of metal go up into the ceiling and they hook around a 2x4. There's 2 2x4s. We double reinforced it on the frame. It could probably hold up a car, I would think. I'm not going to try, but maybe the next owner will turn this into a shop. Obviously, hanging a rope from there, hanging some rings from there. I built this same kind of structure, but a little lower. During COVID, we had some online qualifiers that were really important, and I needed to make sure if they had me do, pull-ups and muscle-ups and handstand push-ups, that everything was in a tight little corner with the shortest transitions possible. So I had that installed. One thing that I'd recommend if you do have a garage gym and your ceilings are a little lower than mine, let's say they're 7 feet, 8 feet, 9 feet, and you have that garage door opener, get the wall mounted garage door opener. That way, if you're putting a barbell or dumbbell over your head, it's not going to be that big bulky thing you sometimes see right in the center. That wall mounted one saves some nice space, especially if you're, doing cleans and jerks and stuff like that. So we've got a road bike, which gets used in the summer. And then a lot of these bars here are new from Rep, and I've been loving them so far. We'll start at the top. Easy curl bar, great for accessories, obviously for curls. This is an earthquake bar. This isn't from Rep. I honestly don't use that much, but it's kind of cool. My wife likes it. This is an axle bar, and I've got a shorter one as well. Sometimes in competition, they're like stubby. And then these are the actual like barbell. So we've got the Hades bar, 20 kilo, which is like a deadlift bar. So a little thinner, a little longer, a little more give to it. So it's a little easier to break off the floor. We've got Colorado bar, 20 kilo, 15 kilo. And then we got the Alpine bar, and that's like the nice Olympic weightlifting bar. So I use that for the cleans. It's got center knurling, but it's not as aggressive as the knurling on the outside, which is nice. So good for snatches and cleans. These here I had custom made. I do a decent amount of like banded deadlifts. And I was even doing some banded cleans at one point, clean pulls, not actual cleans, but clean pulls. And I didn't really have a place to set up bands. So I didn't have like a power rack, right? So I'd hook the bands. I put these on the floor. Here, I'll show you real quick. So then you just put your barbell under there. I put a kettlebell or dumbbell on each side, weighs it down, and then I've got a little line there to show the center. So then I just put one on either side, deadlift there. And then the safety squat bar. This safety squat bar, I have used 3 or 4 different safety squat bars that I borrow from my friends. And this is the nicest one I've ever used. Really like the thick handles. The pad is firm. I think it's 5 pounds heavier than a lot of the ones I use, which is nice. You can just feel the thickness to it. Some of them have felt kind of like flimsy. It's like the bolts in there and stuff aren't quite as sturdy. So I've really used that. I've only used it once so far, but it's been really nice. Farmers carry handles, sled. I like this sled. I haven't used it yet, but it's got the plastic liner on the bottom. I do not like sleds that have just metal. I don't like that. The plastic liner works well on all surfaces. And then at least when that's wearing down, in theory, you could replace it. But I don't like the sound of the metal on asphalt. And also it wears down, and also it heats up more. So it's all around plastic liner on the bottom, major key. This is where I do all my handstand push-ups. Big part of my training, CrossFit has handstand push-ups. Being a taller guy, having longer arms, I gotta get better at these, always working on them. So this right here is puck board, very thin. It's like 1/16 or 1/8 of an inch, very thin. A little more expensive than buying plywood, but looks nicer, a little smoother, and closer to what you use at a competition. So on the floor here, this is just solid rubber. I think this was from an old Olympic lifting platform. And then I just have these lines, white tape permanently on here. This is a 36 inches between, 40 inches between. And then this here is the most recent iteration of the handstand push-up standard. They keep changing it on us, where your hands have to be touching it. So when I'm practicing, I'm always practicing the standard. And then these are 3 different types of foam that I use for 3 different purposes for handstand push-ups. This is what we use in competition. This is Dolomer, so it's like a foam. They use this like for wrestling. This here you can get at the dollar store or Home Hardware. And this is just what it looks like. It's a sponge, and it allows me to control the rep. So you're not bouncing at all off your head, which obviously isn't very good for you. And so it allows you to control, you depress it and press up, so you're keeping constant tension in your arms the whole time. And then this one here, I think this is just off Amazon. It's like a stretching mat. This is bouncy as hell. So you can use this to kind of bounce off your head, which I wouldn't recommend, but if you want to go fast, it helps. And so for online qualifiers, this is good. Leading up to a competition, you want to practice on what you're going to compete on. And then this is kind of the off-season, building strength, doing it well, no injuries. All right, in the corner, we have the rig. Pull-up bars, 10-foot rig, so this is 6 foot, this is 4 foot, 4 foot from the wall, mounted onto some wood that's drilled into the studs. J-cups with the plastic all the way around so your barbell doesn't get worn down on the metal. That's a pet peeve of mine, so really glad that Rep does it this way. And 2 of these, in between the 4-foot attachment here, 2 of these are for dips. Really stable, way more stable than a lot of the attachments I've had before. The harder you press down, the more it kind of locks in, as opposed to just being off a single post and it rattling around. So I've really been liking that. Spotter arms for squatting and benching, I always use these because I almost always train alone and I don't want to die. So I get used to using those and I love those. And these ones are really well built, so I'm stoked about that. Wall ball target up top. 9 foot, 10 foot, and pull-up bars. So this is more of this is a powder coat. So this is kind of more of what you see at competitions. And then this here is like raw steel, and it can be a little grippier, kind of depending on what grips you use, but this one's a little grippier, so kind of nice for online qualifiers if you really want to stick to the bar. Almost forgot, in the corner, we've got the open trap bar, rotating handles. Look at that. Obviously good for trap bar deadlifts, but because it's open, good for like Bulgarian split squats and stuff like that, walking lunges. So this is custom. I don't even know what this is. I think my dad found this at a hardware store. It might be something to do with like a hitch pin. I don't really know. But anyway, you see what it is. It's just a piece of metal. I've got some little foam pieces on the wall, so when it does hit the wall, I'm not putting holes in the drywall. But yeah, this is a nice way to hang it. It kind of looks like a piece of art, really. Like, look, it's beautiful. All right, now we've got storage racks. So before I had a flimsy storage rack from a hardware center, which worked. Wasn't great. This is a lot better. I'm loving this already. These shelves are reversible, which is really cool. So for the top and the bottom, they're flat, and there's like a thin piece of rubber. And then you can flip them upside down and drill them in, and they sit at a little bit of an angle. So you can slide the dumbbells in and out really nice. They've got that lip there, right? So I'm loving that. That is key. I think I might try to fit in one more shelf in here. I'm gonna like move this down a bit and just put like some knickknacks in there, or I don't know, we'll figure something out. But for now, this is still infinitely better than what I had. Having the horns on the sides and on the front here, again, just like great use of space. All of my plates are like bumper plates just because the nature of the way that I train with the barbell, I'm dropping weights all the time, so no steel plates. And yeah, these bumpers are really nice. And even in most change plates, they're usually not metal in the center, and I really like that. I feel like that's going to make these last a lot longer, which is good. Yeah, and other than that, I mean, what you see is what you get. Full set of dumbbells, knurling handles, not the ergonomic handles. I prefer the knurling. And sandbags, wall balls, slam balls. Those are mostly for my wife, but they're still fun for some accessories. Heaviest dumbbells right now are the 120s, which are heavy. And as you can see, I've had these ones for a while and they're quite dusty. They don't get used very much. But when they do, it's always an occasion. You always feel a sense of accomplishment. You'll drag them out and you're going to go, how am I going to do anything with these? And then you do something with them, not much, but you still feel like you accomplished something. This is my beautiful chalk bucket. This is a relic from my first home gym. This was already there. You can kind of see the ugly green. So it was this ugly green color, and it was just left in the rental I was in, just a trash can. And so I painted it with some leftover white paint. And it's still hanging in there, just barely. Maybe we'll slap like a really pristine rep sticker on here. What do you think? Rep. Branding. Coolest piece of equipment, fresh from rep. This is the Athena. And this is the AB 5200 2.0 adjustable bench. So this is dope. This thing is cool. This is a little squat rack, right? Little power rack. And it has a cable stack built into both sides. So you can do, look at that. If I could go back in time, I would definitely build my home gym, and this would be like the centerpiece. This is the mantelpiece. This is the freaking dining room table. Having the cable stack in there definitely negates the need for having like a bunch of bands or band attachments or maybe even extra dumbbells and kettlebells. Yeah, like not every CrossFitter does like a lot of this kind of work, and I think part of that is because they just don't have it. And if they had it, they would do it and they'd find the value in it. With all the accessory work, like I use it for everything from hamstring curls to, single arm lat pull downs, like all sorts of stuff, bicep curls, tricep extensions. And then what's cool about this, got the band pegs as well, right? So a little added resistance there. So between this is the Athena, and then there's the cousin, the Aries, a little bit bigger, just a little different, pros and cons to both. Yeah, I'm gonna have a lot of fun with this. This is really cool. Look at this. You go up, you go down, and then obviously you still have the J cups. You can put spotter arms on it. Yeah, this is really cool. Really excited to have this. Adjustable bench, super smooth. I like that there's, obviously with most adjustable benches, you're getting the different angles here, and they've got the angles written, which is nice. And then you can also adjust how angled the seat is. A lot of benches will just have like a single adjustment for the seat. That's nice. This hinge is lower, so when it is flat, you're not going to feel that on your butt, which is apparently some people really care about that. I don't, but I've been told that it's a high selling point. It is cool though. I mean, once you know, you're like, oh, that's nice, but some people are pickier about that stuff. Next up, we've got a GHD, a Glute Ham Developer, or as how we use it in CrossFit, the complete opposite way where we do GHD sit-ups and it's all anterior. But I do primarily like to use it for hip extensions, for back extensions, for GHRs. And this is super sturdy, right? Really solid foam, band peg attachments, and yeah, it's like a really solid GHD. Lots of ability to move up and down, back and forth. In here, we've got the cardio equipment. We got a treadmill, we got a bike, we got a rower, we got a ski, we've got a climber, and we've got an exercise bike. Ooh, let me show you what's back here. These are 2 DIY projects I've done. So this black beast here is for doing burpees to a 6-inch target. So in the 2012 and 2013 Open, you did a burpee and then you had to jump up and touch a target. And a lot of people would touch like a set of Olympic rings and then they'd move around. And so this was my solution to that, where I would just jump up, I didn't have to look, and I could just brush my hands on this foam. It's ugly, and we haven't had to do that type of burpee in over 10 years. But when we do, I'll be ready. Next, we have a really thick pull-up bar. So this is a 4-inch wide fence post that I had to smooth and drill some holes through so I could just rest it on the pull-up rack, put a really, really long bolt through it, tie it down, and I could practice doing pull-ups on this because you never know. Practicing before the Rogue Invitational, and I came almost last in that workout. But I would have probably done worse without it. So. All right, next in the corner, I'm sure you've kind of seen it already, that's a sauna. It's a bit of a Frankenstein thing. I found it secondhand on like Facebook Marketplace. There's dry heat and infrared heat, which is pretty sweet and gets a decent amount of use. This right here is a DIY parallel bar apparatus. I found someone, handyman, who was able to make this for me, who worked with some steel, gave him some specs that I wanted him to make it out of, and you can also lower it. So this comes out, here I'll show you. So this comes out, and these are just so you don't bruise your skull. And then it'll fit on this low attachment down here. Obviously I have 4 of these, you have to unbolt it all, and then you can do handstand walks on the low P-bars. So these get a decent amount of use, and this was part of the reason I was well prepared for the 2023 games when we had the parallel bar pull traverse and I was able to win that workout. So this paid off. It wasn't cheap, but it paid off with an event win. So I can show the pegboard next. This is the best surprise gift I've ever been given from my dad, other than when I was maybe 6 years old and I got the Lion King playset. But other than that, this year, I think in 2019, my dad surprised me when I came home from a trip and he had finished installing this, as well as he brought the sauna with him from Alberta. I thought it was going to come a couple months later. So I came home, this was here, and the sauna was in here. Let me show you what this thing is. Oh, man. So 4 bolts out. Pull that out. So the original impetus for this was I could do handstand push-ups without catching my feet in these holes. Since then, I've installed another puck board on that wall for faster transitions to and from the pull-up bar. But for the longest time, this is where I did my handstand push-ups, and I'd keep that on the wall so my feet wouldn't stick in here, so it slides in and out. And then this pegboard, I wanted it recessed into the wall instead of sticking out, because when it sticks out, you kind of have a tendency to stick your feet on either side. And when you're at the CrossFit Games, it is recessed flush with the wall. And I wanted the puck board, because this is slipperier than drywall or wood or a piece of plywood. So yeah, this pegboard gets quite a bit of use, and I'm quite proud of this little setup. It's pretty extra, but it looks good, and probably one of the coolest features in this gym. And last but certainly not least, what my wife would call the clutter section. And I'm constantly working on trying to keep this not so cluttered and sort of failing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go through all this stuff pretty quick. We'll show some little videos and yeah, show you what's in here. All right, so starting with the big shelf here, we've got an iron neck, we've got a desk erg, we've got weight belts, we've got a dip belt, we've got squat wedges, we've got a little wobbly board for feet stability. We have an entire box filled with bands. We've got some heavy chains at the bottom of that as well. We've got a bunch of attachments for pulleys and for bands to attach to the rig and to wrap myself up like Houdini. We have a bunch of jump ropes, speed rope, crossover rope, heavy rope, drag rope, way too many knee sleeves and elbow sleeves. We've got weights for my ankles. We've got foam rollers, we've got some extra pads, we've got some hamstring sliders. We've got a homemade DIY tib bar. Shout out to my dad, Russ, again. We've got different weight vests. We've got a heavy backpack. Obviously, got my shoes, parallettes, dowel. We've got a broom. We've got some monkey feet. And we've got a stereo that goes directly into some speakers that are in the wall, but the speakers are also outside the gym, which is pretty slick. This is a rice bucket. So I've had some wrist issues in the past, and this is a good way to strengthen your wrist. You kind of get in there. I like this one to train my extensors. Dive in like that. and pull up, kind of strengthen the back portion. Try not to make a mess. I always forget the exercises, so I printed them out and I put them in there. So here. Feel free to pause the video and learn something. This is Eric Bugenhagen. He's always watching over me when I train, making sure I have the appropriate mindset. If you know, you know. Water. This is a provincial record I broke when I was 17. This meant like a lot to me to break this record. I only broke it by 2/100ths of a second and worked really hard for quite a few summers to break that, so it's really important to me. Obviously here, this is kind of the desk. We've got the headphone jack that heads straight to the stereo, which is pretty slick. And then we've got some drawers. We've got tools, elastic bands, stopwatch, heart rate monitor, velocity tracker for the barbell, Knox for measuring NO2 and SMO2 on the muscles. Got an entire drawer filled with grips and Kleenex. Then down here is just cleaning supplies and like extra chalk. All right, in here we have one shelf for my wife. So she's got her jump ropes and her grips, her knee sleeves in there. This is noise protection for my little daughter. These are Isocapnic Breathe Way Better bags. Probably not a lot of people know what these are. So you do that repetitively over and over again. And it's a specific way of training your respiratory system. It's actually one of the owners is based here in Kelowna, and I work with him a lot. So if you want to step your game up, check that out. Tape, mouth guard, mobility bands, pegs for the pegboard. I don't know. I guess some Voltaren, smelling salts, some snacks. Let's see. Wristbands. More mobility products. Some BFR from Suji. Yeah. And some chalk. And my daughter's little kettlebell. All right, we're all done inside. Let's head outside and check out a few more pieces of equipment I got out there that are kind of cool. But before we do that, I realize as I'm kind of like giving this tour that there's a lot of stuff in here. And I'm really lucky, I'm really fortunate that I have all of this cool equipment. But this certainly is not what I had when I started. And it's not what you need to reach your fitness goals. Certainly not what I needed to get here. I think little things like this help maybe to keep me at the top. But, I think along the way, for me, it's like you have to discover, yourself, and you're going to do that with simplicity. Like to me, like discovering my own strength and like honing in on the small details of just keeping things simple and keeping the passion there, because you're always going to be training more than you compete. And so if you don't love the training and you don't just like build in on that, you're not going to be successful and you're not going to stick with it long enough, because a lot of time it's just a time game. It's like who's willing to just stick it out and grind and enjoy that grind and not make it a grind but make it fun. And one of the strongest powerlifters I know, he said his best training was when he trained out of a closet, and he had this like power rack in a closet, and that was like his best training block leading up to a competition. And he kind of yearns for that simplicity sometimes, he says, now that he works out in a fancy and a nicer gym with more equipment. And so I think like discovering that inside yourself first before you look for more new toys and like a different set of knee sleeves. It's more important to just love the act of training. Yeah, let's go outside. This here is the single most important piece of equipment. A swing. No, this is my daughter's swing. But if you look up, it's attached. This is about 16 feet above the ground. It's for doing rope climbs, it's for doing ring muscle ups, and it's awesome. Custom built when we built this garage. I'll show you a few photos of what it looked like when it was being built, because people always ask, oh, where do I buy that? How did I get it? I'm like, well, it's metal and it's screwed into a bunch of wood. And then they still ask again, so here it is. These are some jerk blocks that were made by someone, and then I bought them from them, so I got them pretty cheap. Got a cold plunge back there, and then I have a really janky reverse hyper that's DIY. It's made out of wood. And I wanted to paint it black, but accidentally bought a dark green. And then in that box, I've just got I've got ropes, and I've got rings to hang. And this reverse hyper is not super safe, but gets the job done for lightweights at least. And that's it. Thank you for joining me. This is my garage gym. I hope you enjoyed the tour as much as I enjoyed giving it. I've been looking forward to giving this tour for a while now, and I'm glad that Rep is here with me. Upgraded it, and I'm really excited to get my training going and have another great year. Thanks so much, guys. Okay, bye.